Well, I made a short video to introduce you to the idea of a vernier caliper. So there's different kinds of calipers, and I've got one here. Um, what they have are like some jaws that will pinch down on something that you want to measure. So this is when you need something more precise than what a ruler could do. Um, and all you do is you see how I'm rolling my thumb on this roller. Now, not every caliper has one of these, but what you do is whatever you want to measure, you put inside the jaws, and then you just close the jaws. And as soon as the jaws are closed as much as they can be, the roller will stop pinching anymore, and it'll just kind of roll freely. So right about there. Okay, so that's kind of the easy part. These have jaws here. You can also measure on the inside of things rather than on the outside. That's what these up here are for. And you can also measure the depth. That's what this little thing is here. As you move it, see how that moves outward? So you can see how deep something is. So anyway, what we're going to do is typically just roll it up on there, kind of pinch it in between there, and then you can take the object out, set it aside, and then you make your reading, okay? So it's the reading that I want to focus on. So when we have the jaws completely closed, I want to zoom in on what's going on here, okay? So see if we can focus this. There we go. So as these move, you see how there's where it says along the bottom MM? Those lines are moving, and the lines that are on the upper part, and there's both inches here and centimeters. We'll be using the metric one down low here. Those are fixed in place, okay? So what we have here are, along the bottom, these are centimeters with tenths of centimeters marked in between them, okay? Very similar to a normal metric ruler or a meter stick. When the jaws are completely closed, in other words, there is zero gap in there, then this will point to zero, okay? So let me show you a little closer with a pen here. Here's where I'm reading. The leftmost line of the movable part, that's where you make your reading. So right now, it's pointed right at zero. And as we open it, now it's pointed at about 1. Again, I'm looking at the leftmost line that's moving. What line does it point to? It points to the 1. Now it points to the 2. Let me see if we can get a little closer. There we go. Now it's pointing to the 2. And right about there, it's pointing to the 3. Okay. But, of course, we can measure in between them. So, like now, this line here is pointed at 3.4 or so. See how it's on the 4th line after the 3? So that's where we make our main reading. But the beauty of this vernier caliper is you can also get not just one decimal place like we have here, 3.4, but you can go one place beyond that, okay? So you first look to decide what your tenths are, okay? Sometimes you're right on it, and sometimes you're a little past it, all right? That's the main thing you need to know first. Again, let me zoom in a little bit more here. Here we go. So right now we're pointed at about the 3.4 something. Still not quite as close as I'd like. Let's see if we can focus. There we go. 3.4 something, right? Okay, now I'm going to teach you how to do the something part. What is that second decimal place? And here's what you have to decide. Which of the lines down here, there are either starting at the 0 or any of these little lines here. Here's the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and here's another 0. One of those lines will be best aligned or lined up with the one above it. Okay, so if you look real closely, some of these lines are just a little bit off from each other, but some of the lines line up really well. So we want to find the one that best lines up. And in this case, I think it's kind of hard to say, but I feel like this middle line here, kind of the long one that I'm pointing to with my pen, that one is best lined up with the line across from it, up here. Okay, so right there, they're the lines that line up with each other. So what you do is you come down here and you figure out which line this is. That is the fifth line. Again, we're reading along how many of these lines along here. That's the fifth line, and so that becomes your second decimal place. So we would say in this case, our pointer, that's on the left side here, that's pointing to 3.4 something. And then to get the something, we go to whichever line is best matched up. And in this case, I claim it's the 5. I could certainly understand if somebody thought it was the 4. But I don't think any, like this one over here, definitely is not lined up with the one across from it. So I'd say either a 4 or a 5. So we would say 3.45 centimeters would be the best reading there. Okay. All right, let me do a couple others. Grab some pictures, and then we'll do those for practice, and then you'll get a chance to work for yourself here. Okay, here's a similar example. So now this is just kind of zooming in on the measurement part. So remember, you'll have these fixed numbers that don't move. Those will be numbered like centimeters with the tenths of centimeters in between them. So that's like the 3 and the 4 here. And then what they're labeling here is the vernier scale. That's the movable part that moves as you slide the jaws open. Okay? These happen to be numbered 0, 5, and 10, but the ones on your vernier caliper probably aren't going to be numbered, but you can still know that the first line is 0, and that longish line there is 5, and then the last line is 10. So to make your reading, again, we're going to get 2 decimal places here. So the first 2 digits come from where the 0 on the vernier, the movable part, is pointing. So here's where the 0 line is on the movable part. Look where it's pointing on the fixed part above it, what they label as the main scale. See, we're at 3, but not yet to 4, so it's 3 point something. Well, how many tenths is that? See my mouse here? 1, 2, and wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're between the 3 and the 4. So that means we're at 3.3 something. Now here's how you figure out the something. This is actually, the text is written here. Look at where there's a nice straight line between the 2 scales. One of those will be best lined up with the line across from it. And they're pointing to it here with these red arrows. So this line here on the movable scale and the line right above it on the fixed main scale perfectly line up. They look like one continuous line. So if you count which line that is on your movable scale, that will tell you what your second decimal place is. So here's 0. We're at 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4th line over. And so that makes the second decimal place a 4. So we are at 3.34 centimeters. Okay. You can do this in inches too, but we don't use inches in this class. So that's how you read a vernier scale on a caliper.